Hey everybody, this is Ryan King, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this realistic dresser. And so I'm going to be using two resources online. I'm going to be using this HDRI on HDRI Haven. You can just download the 1K version, and the link will be in the video description. And then I'm also going to be using this wood 026 from cc0textures.com. The link will be in the video description for this as well. And at the end of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do some basic rigging so that when you move these, the dresser drawers are going to open up. But then if you press Alt-G to clear the movement or location of it, it'll jump back in there. And then also, when you want to move this around, you can just click on this and just rotate it and just move it wherever you want. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well at the end of the tutorial. So here I am in Blender now. I'm just gonna start by just deleting the default cube and lamp because I don't need them right now. And then I also have my screencast keys right down here so you can see what buttons I'm pressing to help you out there. And then also I don't really want the timeline, so I'm just gonna close it just like that. Okay, so we can actually use this default cube. So I'm gonna tab into edit mode. Let's just press S and Y, and we're just going to start modeling the dresser. So I'll just scale it up like this. Okay, and then I'll just press S and X, scale it like that, just something like that. And then I can press 3 for the face select. I'll just select this top face and I'll press G and Z and just bring it up just to a size that you like. And I think I might want to make this a little bit thicker, so I'm just going to select everything, just make it a bit thicker, just like that. So now I'm going to select this front face here, and I'll press I to inset that, and I'll just scale it down. I'll just scale it down to something that I like, just like that. And then I'm going to press 3 on the number pad. Oh, so I pressed 3 on the number pad for side view, and you can see it's actually front view because I was modeling this the opposite direction. So I'm just going to tab out of edit mode to go back into object mode, and I'll press R and Z and then just type in 90 and enter. And if I press 3 for side view, you can see we're in side view, but really quick, I want to rotate this on the Z by 180. So now when I press 1, you can see this is the front, and when I press 3, that's the side. Now I'm just going to press 3 for side view. I'll hold down Z and just move to wireframe. And then I'll just press E and just extrude this back. Just about there, just something like that. And then I can just go out of wireframe right here and tab back into object mode. And there's just the base for our dresser. And then I'm going to tab into edit mode, just select this top face, and I'm going to add like kind of like a lip on the top of the dresser. So I'll press Shift D just to duplicate this face, but then I'll right click so it jumps back to where it was. And then I'll just press S and just scale it up a little bit. And then I'll just move it down just a little bit like that. And then I'll press E and extrude it up. So now we just kind of have this little lip here. And on the back, I don't really want there to be too much width right there, because this would probably be like going on the back of a wall or something in the room. So it would kind of bump up on the wall. So I'm just going to press G and X and just G and Y and just move it in a bit like that. Okay, there we go. And then I'll select this front face, and I want to make it a little bit thicker or coming out a little bit more. So I'll just press G and Y, just move it out a little bit. Okay, I like that. That's pretty good. So now I'm going to tab into edit mode, just select either the top face or bottom face here, and I'll press Shift D and then Z, move it up. And then I'll press P, and then we can separate this by selection. So now we can tab back into object mode and just click on this new object that we've made, and we're going to start modeling the drawers. So I'll tab into edit mode and just select this drawer, and I can just bring it down and just give it a little bit of in between, just give it a little bit of space in between right here, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to front view, and I'm also going to actually scale it a tiny bit down just so that like on the edges here it has a little bit of extra space. And then I'll press E and extrude this up. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to get the size exact because we're going to be playing a little bit, we're going to be playing around with the size a little bit later. so you don't have to worry too much about getting the size exact. And then I'll press I to inset the face right here, and I'll go back to front view by pressing 1 on the number pad, and I'll go back into wireframe and extrude this down just like that. And something I like to do is kind of make sure that the thickness back and forth here is about the same thickness as up and down. Okay, so there is one of our drawers. I'm going to go over to the modifiers right here, and I'm going to add modifier, and I'm going to add an array. And you can see it's duplicating, it's like making an array of it, and it's coming out like this, but I want it to be going up. So I'm going to take this value right here, turn it to 0, and then the bottom value, I can turn it to 1. So now it's making an array of the shelves or the drawers going up. So I can turn this to 4 because I'm going to have 4 shelves. And I do want to add a little bit of space in between the drawers because right here you can't even see, you can't even tell the difference between the drawers. So right here, from 1, I'm going to change this to 1.005. And that'll just give a tiny little bit of width, just to give it a tiny little bit of space in between those drawers. And then we're also going to be adding a bevel modifier and just adding a bevel around the edges, and that'll also make that just a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. And now you can see there's some extra space right here. So what you can do is you can go to front view, you can tab into edit mode, and you can actually change the size of this drawer. There's 2 ways to do this. One way is to change the size of the drawer. So I'm just going to go to, I'm going to press 1 to go to vertice select, and I'll just go into wireframe, and I can just select this top area, and then I can press G and Z and bring it up to match that. But if you want to keep the drawers a certain width, then instead of doing this, you can just make it the size that you want. So I maybe like that, but there's this extra space right here. So what I can do is just tab into edit mode on the dresser, go into wireframe and just select this top area, and then I can press G and Z and just bring it down and just leave a little bit of space in between. So there we go. Now we have our dresser, and I think actually the dresser might be a little bit too thick. So if you want to change that, you can tab into edit mode here and just scale it down on the X just to make it a little bit less wide. And then you can just tab into edit mode here, and I'm just going to select these, bring it in a little bit, and then select this edge, or all these over here, and just bring that in a little bit. Okay, so now let's add a bevel modifier to give it some more realism. So I'm going to add modifier, let's add a bevel, and then the segments, I'm just going to turn that to 3, and then the offset, we can just make it really small. It doesn't need to be too big, but nothing in the real world is super sharp. Everything has a bit of a bevel. So I'm just going to make it just something like that. So that's 0.004. And then I'm just going to shade smooth. So I use right click select. So I'm just going to hit W and shade smooth. But you can also just go object and shade smooth like that. And then I'm going to add a bevel onto these two. So I click on add modifier, add a bevel. And then I don't really want to see this array modifier, so I'll just click this arrow just to hide it so I don't need to see it. And then this bevel right here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll just click on this and I can see it's 0.004. So I'll just change this to 0.004. Oops. There we go. And then I can just shade that smooth. And I think I want that to be a tiny bit more. So I think I'll do, okay, so I'm going to do 0.008 on both of these. But I want it to be the same so that it doesn't, it looks like it's the same furniture. So it has the same amount of beveling. And then I'm just going to turn the segments of this up to 3 as well. Let's save this file if you haven't already. So just press Shift Control S to save your file. And just save this file somewhere in your computer. I'm just going to call it dresser.blend. And you can just save image right there. Right behind me, there's a save as button. You can just save that. Now let's model the handles to the dresser. So I'm just going to press Shift A. I'm going to add a plane, and I'll just bring this plane in front so we can see it. And I'll press period on the number pad to look over at it. I'm going to rotate this plane, so I'll press R and X and then just type in 90 and enter. And then I'll tab into edit mode. I'll press S and Z, scale it down, just scale it down a little bit. I'll tab back into object mode, and then I'll move it pretty close to the dresser. And then I'll tab into edit mode again, press Control R and just add like 2 loop cuts. So just add 2 loop cuts there, and then I can bring this out. And then these two and these two, I'm gonna press S and X, just scale them down a bit. And then I'm gonna press E and S and Y, actually X, and just scale that out a little bit. Just like that. So I've just created just a basic handle shape. And then I'll just move it down a little bit and scale it down a little bit. So now I'm going to add a solidify modifier to give it some thickness. So I'll go add modifier and add a solidify. Okay, and then the thickness, let's just zoom in here, and I'm just going to make the thickness just about that much, and then I'll press Control 2, that'll add a subdivision surface, and actually I'm just going to set the render and viewport to 1, and then I'll just shade smooth, so you can just go here, object, and shade smooth. And then let's add some loop cuts, so I'll tab into edit mode, I'll just press Control R, scroll my mouse wheel up, so we have 2, and then just left click and then right click to set that, and then I'll press S and Z and bring it up, and then I'm going to add a loop cut here and a loop cut here just to sharpen up those edges. So now I'm going to just move this and just place it right on the drawer, and I think I want to move it a little bit down and maybe scale it down just a little bit. So this solidify, I'm going to actually apply that, and I'm going to apply the subdivision surface. And now I'm going to click on the drawers right here, and I actually want to apply the bevel, but I don't want to apply the array. So I'll just click apply on the bevel. You can see now if you tab into edit mode, you can just zoom in here and you can see there is the bevel that's been applied. And why I'm doing this is because I want to join the handle to the drawers, but I don't want to add the bevel modifier onto the handle. So I need to apply that. And now I can just click on the handle, shift click on the drawers, and press Control J. And now I've joined them together, and you can see it's added that to the array. So now we have the handles on every drawer. And then I actually want to scale this a little bit smaller. So I'll just deselect everything, hover my mouse over the handle and press L, and then I can just scale this a little bit smaller and just scale it, bring it in a little bit. And now I might as well just apply this bevel because the other one's applied, so I'm just gonna apply this. So I'll just apply that right there. Now you can see, there we go. Okay, let's set up some lighting now, and then we can do the materials. So I'm gonna go over to the world settings right here. I'm gonna click on this and go to the environment texture right there, and then I'll click on open. And then I'm going to be using this HDRI right here. The link will be in the video description if you want to download that. So I'll just add that. And then if I go to rendered mode, you can see we've got some nice soft lighting. Now let's go over to the color management. So just click on this tab right here, go to color management, just make sure this is set to filmic, and then I'm just going to use a high contrast. And then over here on the film, I'm going to set this to transparent so we can't see the background. And then I'm also going to add a camera. So I'll just press Shift A, add a camera, and then I'll just move my view to a place where I like, and I'll press Control Alt 0, number pad 0 to jump the camera to where I am. And then something that I think makes this look a little bit better is to change the focal length a bit. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I found that for this 3D model, I found that if I changed the focal length to like 70, it looks a little bit better. I just like it. I think it looks a bit nicer at 70. So I'm just going to do that in the camera settings, just change that to 70. And then let's go over here and to the render settings. And I'm just going to change both of these to 1920, just so that it's a square image. And then I can press G, double tap Z, and bring the camera out and just move it down. And then I can press Control B and just box select the entire camera, and that way it's only going to render what's inside the camera view. And then also I think I want to make the HDRI a little bit less strong. When we do some more lighting later, I think it will look a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to set the HDRI strength to a little bit less than 1. And then let's just add a light. So I'm just going to click over here to set the 3D cursor over there. I'll press Shift A, and I'm going to add a plane. I'll just rotate this plane so that it's facing the dresser. And then over here, I'll add a new material and I'll change it to an emission. So what I usually do is I just click on here and then I press E, and that's like a shortcut key to just turn it to an emission. So I usually do that. And then I actually like to set this to a little bit of a blue color because the rest of the scene is kind of a little bit of a yellowy color. So I think it looks kind of nice if this light is a little bit blue. And then the strength, I'm just going to set that to like 10. And I'll just scale this up a bit, and I can press double tap R, and that'll just rotate it around. Before we start UV unwrapping, I'm going to need to apply the array modifier. So I'm just going to go over here, and you can see here's our array modifier. I'm going to click apply. And then if we tab into edit mode, you can see it's been applied, but I want each of these to be their own object. So I'm going to deselect everything. I'll hover my mouse over the handle and press L, and then also hover my mouse over at one of the corners here and press L, and that'll just select one of the drawers, and then I'll press P, and I'll separate by selection. So we need to do that for all the drawers, so I'll tab back into object mode, click on the drawers here, tab into edit mode, and then I'll just press L and L and just select that, and then P by selection, and then we just need to do that one more time. So I'll click on this one, tab into edit mode, L and L to select all the linked vertices, and then P, separate by selection, and there we go. So now these are all their own separate objects. So now let's do the UV unwrapping. So I'm just gonna select all the objects, and I will tab into edit mode. So then even though they're all separate objects, they're all in edit mode right now, and I can just press U and press Smart UV Project, and then just hit OK. So I found that an object like this, because it's very boxy, the Smart UV Project works really well, and it just looks really great. I'm not going to add any seams. I've just found that for this object, you can just do the Smart UV Project, and it works really well. So let's go over to the shading here. And I don't want these, because I just don't need them, so I just don't want to see them. So I'm just going to drag and then just remove these two panels because I don't need them. I can tab back into object mode and just go into the camera view, and then I'll just click on new, and I'm just going to call this wood. Okay, and then you can go, if you haven't downloaded the material, you can just download that wood material that's in the video description, or if you have another wood material that you want to use, you can do that too. And you can see here's my file browser. I'm just gonna put it on my other monitor, and I can just drag the material or the texture right in, just into the node editor right there. And then this is the color, so I'll just drop the color into the base color, and then I can just grab the roughness, so I'll just drop the roughness in here and put the color up to the roughness, and then I want to change the color space to non-color. Any texture that's not contributing directly to the color of the material needs to be using the non-color data. So this one needs to be using the sRGB, but all the others you need to change the color space to non-color. And then let's do the normal map. So I'll drop the normal map in here, change this to non-color data, plug the color into the normal, and then let's press Shift A. I'm just going to search for a normal map node, and we'll just drop the normal map right in between there, and that'll convert that so that the principled shader can use it. And now if we just go into rendered mode and just kind of zoom in here, you can see that's starting to look pretty nice. I'm just going to go into the material preview by pressing Z and moving down, and then I can grab right here this wood material, and I can drop it on all the other drawers, and then the metal material will do that pretty soon. So this is really cool how I can just drag it and drop it onto the other objects. And you can see right now the texture is really small, so we want to scale it a lot bigger because right now it looks kind of low resolution because we need to scale it up a bit. So to do that, I'm going to go to the UV editor, and I'm just going to select all the objects and then tab into edit mode. So they're all in edit mode. Just make sure all of them are selected, and then I can go over here, and this is the UV editor, and I can just press A and select all of the UVs. And let me just go into material preview so I can see the material, and then I'll press S and scale that up until it's something a bit better. I want to scale it out a bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. There we go. Something like that. Okay, and then as far as like which way the wood grain goes, I think these look pretty good. I like how this is going this way, and this one is going this way. But I want to change the dressers, or the drawers, so that the wood grain, instead of going up and down, it's going sideways. So it's pretty easy to do that. I can just click on one of the drawers and then shift click on all the others. I'll tab into edit mode and just make sure that they're all selected, and then just press A and make sure all of these are selected, and I'll press R90 enter. And now you can see now the wood grain is going back and forth instead of up and down. And then real quick, I think I want to scale the whole thing up a little bit, so I'll just shift click on this, tab into edit mode, and just scale that up maybe a little bit more, just something like that. Okay, so let's go back into shading now, and I need to add the metal material to the handles, so I'll just tab into edit mode on one of these. I'll just press L and just select that, and then we can go over here to the materials, and then within this object I'm going to add a new material, so I'll go plus, I'll click new, I can just call it handles, and then over here in the node editor, let me just bring this up so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to change the metallic all the way to 1. And then also with this selected, I'm just going to just press L. Just make sure just this is selected, and then press assign. Now you can see that's assigned to it. So I'm going to turn the metallic all the way to 1. The roughness I'm going to turn down a little bit. And I'll go into rendered mode actually to see how that's looking. And then the base color, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit, so it's not super bright. Maybe turn the roughness a little bit down. And there we go, that looks pretty nice. So now we need to add this metal material to all the other handles. So I'll just click on this, tab into edit mode, deselect everything, press L to select this, and then over here I'll click plus, I'll click on the handles material, and I'll press assign. Okay, and then I'll go to the next one, tab into edit mode, L to select the linked vertices, we'll click plus, we'll drop this down, click on the handles and press assign, and then just do that one more time. Just add it right there, add the handles and assign that. Okay, so there we go. And then also I think I want to maybe make it a little bit brighter. There we go. Okay, so we're almost done with the materials. This is a totally optional thing, but if you want to do it, I'm just going to click over here on the wood material, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to edit the colors a little bit because I found that it looks a little bit better. So I'm going to press Shift A, I'm going to add a mix RGB, drop the mix RGB right here, and then this color too, I'm going to make it kind of a brown, dark purple kind of color, kind of a wood brownish purple color, something like that. And then you can see this factor, if I move it all the way over to here, this is just the color, and if I move it all the way over here, it's just the texture. So I'm just going to move it so that it's kind of in between. And what this is doing is, I just think it makes it look a bit nicer. It just kind of makes it look like a kind of a darker, richer wood. So if you don't want to do this, it's totally optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I can just press M, and this is how it is before, and then if I just press M to unmute that, it just makes it a bit darker, and I think it just looks a little bit better. So now let's add a shadow catcher on the ground so that it'll look like the dresser is sitting on a surface. So I'll press Shift A, actually I'm going to press Shift C so that the 3D cursor jumps to the middle of the world. I'll press Shift A and add a plane and scale the plane up. And I'm just going to go back over here to the layout to just finish this out. And then I can press G, Z, and just bring this down just so that the dresser is sitting right there. And then just scale it up a lot more. And you could even bring it out a bit. And then I'm not going to add a material to this, but what I'm going to do is go to the object settings right here. And I'll go down here to visibility, and I'll turn on shadow catcher. So now if we go into rendered mode, you can see it's transparent, but if you look down here, you can see there's a little bit of a shadow, and that's just going to add a lot. It's going to make it look like the dresser is just sitting on some kind of perfect white surface. I'm just going to press Control S just to save that, and then let's just set up some render settings. So I'm just going to go up here, and then on the light paths here, I'm just going to turn a lot of these off because I don't need very many of them, and this just speed up render time. So I'm going to turn most of these to 0. On the diffuse, glossy, and total, I'm just going to turn those all to 2, but then everything else I can just turn off, and that'll speed up some render times. And then right here, I'm just going to set this to 200. You don't have to, 100 will work fine too, but I'm just going to turn it to 200. And then let's just save this again, and I'm going to press F12 to render, and we'll just wait for that to render, or you can also go render and render the image. Okay, and the render finished, and let's just do some quick compositing. So I'm just going to go over here to the compositor, and I'm just going to click on Use Nodes and make sure Backdrop is enabled, and I'll press N to close that. I'm going to press Shift A, I'm going to add the denoise node, drop the denoise node in there, and then I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add an alpha over node, so I'll just drop that there. And then I have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, so I can just press Control, Shift, and click to add a viewer node. You can also just press Shift A and search for a viewer node and drop it in right there. And then I'm going to move this down to the bottom one, and then I'll press V to move the background image out. And then this color, if it's fully white, I think it looks a little bit blown out, so I'm just going to make it a little bit less bright, just so that it's kind of a gray color. And you can see there's the shadow catcher. It looks really nice. It makes it look like it's actually sitting on a surface. And there we go. So now if I go over to like the rendering tab, I can just click on this and go to viewer node, and you can see there it is. So that is the final render, but now I'm going to show you how to set up some simple rigging so that we can rig this object. So let's go back out to the layout right here. I'll just press Escape to go right out here, and let's just do some rigging. So if you click on one of the objects and press N, you can go up here to item, and you can see here's the location, rotation, and scale of the objects. I'm just going to apply all of these just to make sure they're all at 0. So I'm just going to shift click on all of these just so that all of these are selected, and I'll press Control A, and I'll click all transforms. And now you can see if any of these were messed up, they're all down to 0. The scale's at 1, and then the rotation and location is 0. But now if you've moved these and kind of messed them up, let's say these are kind of moved around a bit and you want to move them back together, you can click on all the objects, and you can press Alt-R to clear the rotation, Alt-G to clear the location, and Alt-S to clear the scale. So now it's just jumped back to its correct position. But you can see if you move this, these are just moving all around. So I'm going to show you how to rig this up. So first thing I'm going to do is shift click on all the drawers, and then lastly I'll shift click on the dresser, and then I'll press Control P, and I'm going to set parent to object keep transform. And because we selected the dresser last, if I click on the dresser and move it around, you can see all the drawers move with it because we've parented the drawers to the dresser. And then if we want these drawers to only open and close but not move around anywhere else, we can lock the location, rotation, and scale of the objects. So the scale, I'm going to just click and drag, and the rotation, I'm just going to click and drag, and that'll just lock all those. And then I want this to move back and forth, and you can see this is the y-axis, so I'm going to lock the z and the x, but not the y. And now if I just press G, you can see it's only going to move back and forth. But if I press S, it's not going to move. If I press R, it's not going to move. But if I click on the dresser and rotate it around, you can see it's following along with it. So I can still, like if I were making an architecture scene or something, I can still rotate this around and move it where I want. But then if I want to open up the dressers, they'll only move back and forth. So I just need to do that for the other drawers. So I'll just click on this. I'll just lock these two and then hold down my mouse and just lock all those. And then I'll do it for the other ones. So I'm just locking everything except the location Y. But then if I want to move it back to its closing position, I can just shift click on both of these and press Alt G, and then it'll jump back to its original position. So now we can just set up a quick render. So I'll just move these out like this, press 0, maybe move them out a bit more, and then I can press F12 and then it'll render that. If you'd like to support this channel, I do have a Blender Market and Gumroad stores set up, and I'm selling some 3D models, and I'm also selling my tutorials, so this is a great way to help support the channel. And I also just recently set up a Patreon, so if you'd like to help support me, this is a great way to do that. And I'm going to have my tutorial files, and I'm also going to be having my 3D models and other assets on my Patreon. So if you join my Patreon, you can get my finished Blender files, and you can also get my 3D models and assets that I have for sale. So this is just something, if you want to help support me, this is a great way to do that. So thanks for watching. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I'll see you in a future video.